"Your ticket, please," the flight attendant said to me. I handed her the ticket, which I had been twisting in my hand for an hour. She nodded her head, took a piece of paper out of her pocket, folded it in half, put the ticket inside, and gave it to me. "Have a nice flight," she said. I walked on board, found my seat, and settled into it. Putting the ticket away in my bag, I looked at the piece of paper the flight attendant gave me. It was a quickly written note in scrawled handwriting. It had three words: "Follow these rules if you want to survive. 1. Don't tell anyone about this note. 2. After reading the rule, look at the time. From that moment on, they will take effect. 3. In the first hour of the flight, don't talk to anyone. 4. On the second hour of the flight, you can talk to passenger, but never look out the window. 5. If you hear a baby crying, run to the toilet. 6. If the screen of your TV in the seat goes out, turn away from it. 7. On the third hour of the flight, the pilot will make an announcement. Follow his instructions. 8. At the fourth hour of the flight, get out of your seat and don't sit in it again. 9. On the fifth hour of the flight, you'll be chased by a hunter. Avoid meeting them. You will realize who it is. 10. When the pilot announces landing, run to the exit and open the door. 11. Behind the door you will see a black abyss. Jump into it. Laughing, I reread these rules. I wondered if they had handed out such papers to all the passengers, or I had been chosen as the random victim for this prank. On the final note, I looked at the time, 20:30. A young man came up to me, sat down in the seat next to me, and buckled up without saying a word. I looked at him and saw that he was holding a laptop bag. Great, I thought. He'll mind his own business and won't ask stupid questions. The guy was staring intently somewhere in front of him. I started to entertain myself with the TV in the seat. Soon the pilot announced takeoff. The airplane began to pick up speed and gravity pressed me into the seat. Seconds later, the airplane lifted into the air. I get a little nervous before flights, but this time my stomach ached with excitement, an inner voice telling me that I was in mortal danger. I put the bad thoughts out of my head, writing off the anxiety as a stupid note, reading the same bullshit, and now I was freaking out. I leaned back in my chair and tried to relax. Suddenly, my neighbor touched my shoulder, and I jumped up as I had been electrocuted. I turned around and looked at my neighbor. There was something wrong with his face. You know, sometimes in expensive clothing stores, they put out very realistic mannequins. They look like real people, but the artificial facial features make them look like a doll. So with this guy, I can say what it was that made me tense. Maybe it was the huge eyes and wide pupils, or maybe it was the unnaturally long and thin lips. I couldn't tell. The thought crossed my mind, this was not a human being. Then the neighbor spoke up. "Hello, are you wearing headphones?" he asked. Sorry for the stupid question. I was wondering if I could give you headphones. The questions are retarded, I thought, and I looked at my neighbor. His voice turned out to be quite human. The guy is a fool, but that's okay. I would have continued to think so if he hadn't asked the next question. "Do you mind if I cut off your arm? Do you think you'd like it?" I was shocked by the question. Suddenly, the first rule of don't talk to anyone for the first hour of the flight popped into my head, and I decided to keep quiet. This guy was really stressing me out so much so that I basically couldn't talk to him. He stopped looking at me, took his laptop out of his bag and started working. I slowly looked at his laptop. I was shocked at what I saw. On the screen, in full size, was a picture of me. It showed me sitting on an airplane by the window. I looked at the keyboard. It was not ordinary. Instead of the usual letters on the buttons, there were symbols that I had never seen in my life. I finally realized that these rules weren't a joke at all. I was thinking, and before I knew it, there was a stewardess. "Young lady, is the neighbor boring you?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. At that moment, absolutely everyone in the cabin turned around and stared directly at me. The corners of their mouths slowly rolled almost to their eyes. They had unnaturally wide smiles and bloody tears. I was shocked at what was happening. Even the flight attendant who had cunningly gotten me to talk to her was looking at me with bulging eyes. I was terrified they were going to jump at me, but nothing happened. Seconds stretched like minutes. People just sat still and stared at me. When the shock passed and my heart stopped racing, I began to think about what to do next. Suddenly, the warning system started working and an indifferent voice sounded in the cabin, which made the hair on my head stand on end. The pilot said, "Dear passengers, the airplane is entering a turbulence zone. Please remain seated and fasten your seatbelts." After this announcement, passengers who were looking at me suddenly turned away and went about their business. The atmosphere around me became normal again. I thought for a second that it was just a dream. I looked at my neighbor's laptop again, saw my picture, and realized that there was more to come. The neighbor was tapping at his obscure keyboard and structuring the screen, but the text was nowhere to be found. I read the rules and paid attention to the servants. On the third hour of the flight, the pilot would make an announcement. Follow his instructions. I reached for my phone and was relieved to see that it was only the first hour. A thought flashed through my mind, maybe because I broke the rules somehow changed the course of events, or the note didn't say everything. Suddenly, the plane jerked sharply. The pilot was not lying about the turbulence zone. The plane began to shake. I wanted to look out the window. The rule forbade to look out. They're only the second hour of flight, so I boldly opened the curtain and was speechless. It was dark outside. I looked into the endless blackness. I felt like I was falling into a black hole. Strange how an airplane can fly so calmly in a space where by all laws of physics it should have been flattened a long time ago. The questions remained unanswered in the blackness. There was something beyond the plane that mesmerized me, and I took an effort to look away from the window. I looked at the plane and my heart stopped for a second. In the couple of minutes that I stared into the darkness, an entire hour had passed on the plane. By that point, it was clear that the course of events on this plane had finally been disrupted and the rules were no longer needed. But the thought of rescue never left me, so I decided to follow them to the end anyway. Suddenly, the screen on TV went out, and a second later, I heard a baby crying. I jumped from my seat and ran towards the bathroom. As I ran between the endlessly long rows of seats, a female passenger came running towards me, blocking my way. I looked at her, and she was looking at me with hope and horror in her eyes. As she looked at me, she clenched her tiny hands into fists at her chest. She was scared to death. "Hello, are you stuck here too?" she asked. "Yes." "Were you given a list of rules too?" I inquired. "Yes, but I lost it. Can I see yours?" My mind raced through everything I'd been through today. I expected a trick from anything. My brain demanded to run, but the desperation in the eyes of the passenger touched my heart. Overpowering myself, I gave her the list. The girl thanked me, quickly looked at the rules, and to my immense relief, she handed it back. "Finally found a real person. My name is Sophia," she said. "Nice to meet you, Emma. I'll be honest, I've already broken one rule, and I think that's the reason things have gone wrong. But we have no other options. We'll continue to follow the rules for now, and then we'll see what happens. It's the other passengers that scare me. I don't think they're even human beings." Sophia looked at me surprisingly calmly. The inner voice raised to alarm again. This girl was too quick to calm down. She's not human either, just skillfully disguised. But I quickly dispelled any doubts, for Sophia's face, unlike all the others, was completely normal, and her strange behavior could easily be explained what was going on here. She was going through the same thing as me. I heard the baby crying again. We ran to the bathroom, locked ourselves inside, and sat on the floor. Baby cries sounded less and less like human cries, and in the end we heard such a screech that the eardrum in my ear burst and blood came out. And Sophia just sat on the floor and didn't even think about covering her ears. She must have really sharp hearing, I thought. The crying stopped and the pilot's voice came out of the public address system again. Dear passengers, everyone please proceed to the forward section of the airplane. Passengers continued to sit in their seats and didn't even think about getting up. I looked at Sophia. She nodded at me and walked to the nose section of the airplane. When we got there, I noticed the door to the pilot's office was open. I cautiously walked inside and noticed two things. One, the pilot wasn't there. The second, the windshield had a view of an eerie landscape. Far below was the red, scorched earth, cracked, and the terrible heat and the dryness. There were concrete houses. It looked like cities. I didn't know where we were going. I was really scared. And then the worst happened. Sophia laughed. I felt like her nails pierced my jacket and slowly digging my skin. And then she leaned down to my ear and whispered in an inhuman voice, "I'm a hunter." I slowly turned my head and realized that Sophia's image was just a disguise. Instead of neat fingernails, my shoulder was pierced by sharp claws. The skin of the hunter's skin was white, and the eyes, nose, and mouth on this face had switched places with each other. I gathered my strength, pushed her out of the cabin, and started to run away. The passengers were sitting and paying no attention to us. Suddenly, the pilot made an announcement again. "We have arrived." I ran to the exit, opened the door, and ran outside. Looking around, I saw a huge sun in the sky. The heat from it was unbearable, and I decided to take shelter in the shade of the nearest building. Once I got there, I fell to the hot ground. "Welcome to hell!" I looked up and saw a man in a tuxedo. He stood over me and started at me intently. "You are an uninvited guest here. Normally, we keep track of those who need to get here, and you're not among them. But it's okay, it happens. You might even be able to return to your world, but it's not accurate. So just in case, I'll tell you what you'll be doing for the next eternity. First, you're gonna have to work. See that human souls? That's the energy source used to maintain the barrier between your world and ours." Suddenly, a creature of bright white light appeared between us, a man in a tuxedo. He spoke in some incomprehensible language, and then the creature disappeared. And the man turned to me. "Emma, you have been allowed to leave this place. It's a pity. We just met you and you're already leaving. I'm sorry for what happened. You can go back to being a human." He snapped my fingers and the world around me began to distort. I don't know how much time had passed, but I was sitting on the airplane seat again, the numbers 2030 burning on my phone clock. I had been given another chance. Suddenly, flight attendant and other passengers started yelling at me. At one point, my seat neighbor put his head in my lap and looked at me with huge eyes, but I didn't fall for his tricks. On the 5th hour, the hunter showed up. It was Sophia again. This time I won. She never got me. Soon, the pilot announced landing. I jumped out of my seat, went to the exit, opened the door, and just like Now said, jumped into the abyss. I woke up in the hospital. As it turned out, I was hit by a car. My whole body was fractured, and no one thought I would survive. The doctor came to me and said that I had been dead for 3 minutes, but life miraculously returned to my body. It took me a long time to rehabilitate and recover, but eventually was able to get back to normal. Everything ended well.